Prophet Muhammad, a beacon of light. Unfortunately, in the last decade or so, some militant extremist groups like the Taliban of Afghanistan have been against education, especially girls' education. Taliban claim to be the followers of the Prophet Muhammad and claim to follow his teachings and his legacy. Between 2009 and 2014, hundreds of schools have been demolished by Taliban, and many school children have lost their lives in attacks on schools in Pakistan. Many have been injured, including Nobel Peace Prize winner Malala Yousafzai. At 15 years old, was shot in the face and neck on her school bus for promoting education by campaigning for girls' education. Last year, on December 16, 2014, 7 Taliban gunmen opened fire at school kids between the ages of 8 and 15 at the Army Public School and College in Peshawar, Pakistan, killing 132 children. In this documentary, we will explore the legacy of Prophet Muhammad when it comes to universal education. Prophet Muhammad is the founder of the religion Islam and is accepted by 1.5 billion Muslims throughout the world as the last prophet. He was born in 570 AD in Mecca, modern-day Saudi Arabia, to a single mother whose husband died before she gave birth. Prophet Muhammad was barely 6 years old when his mother passed away. Later, his own experience would help him to encourage compassion for orphans, telling his companions that kindness shown to parentless children would grant them paradise. The Prophet Muhammad went to live with his grandfather Abdul Muttalib and spent 2 happy years with him until he died when the Prophet was 8 years old. Again, he had to face emotional and physical upheaval, moving to live with his uncle Abu Talib. As a young boy, the Prophet earned his living as a shepherd, a role he was later to speak about with fondness. Many of the prophets of God were shepherds. Later, he would become renowned for his honest dealing with people in business and trade. Life was not easy in 7th century Arabia. It was a tribal society, and the polytheistic nomadic tribes were constantly at war with each other. The unforgiving desert landscape had and still doesn't have any permanent rivers, streams, or lakes, making resources scarce. Among the Arabs, there were extremely few who could read and write. Most of them were not eager to learn these arts. Some historians believe that the culture of that period was almost entirely oral. Women had no rights. They were considered a property. They were looked down upon, and often female infants were abandoned or buried alive. The life for a woman in other parts of the world like Europe and China were not much different at that time. In 7th century Arabia, the Prophet's message and commitment to the enduring values of justice, freedom, education, charity, and equality carried a universal message which caused a revolution. What began as a small band of followers in the 7th century Arabia has now grown into a global community of 1.5 billion, a fifth of the world's population. Muslims everywhere model their own lives on his behavior, from prayer to politics, personal hygiene to community service. This one man continues to inspire millions of lives 14 centuries after he lived. At a time when China was not a 12-hour flight away, the Prophet's message was clear. Seek knowledge, even if you have to go to China. The pursuit of knowledge is a duty of every Muslim, man and woman, said the Prophet, and he made education and learning a religious duty. In Medina, Prophet Muhammad appointed teachers whose full-time job was to teach the community. His wife Aisha taught men and women for more than 40 years at the mosque, becoming the first of thousands of Muslim female scholars in Islamic history. Free education and student accommodation was a feature in the early Muslim community, and thousands of primary and secondary schools formed across the Muslim world. The world's first university was established by an African Muslim woman Fatima al-Fihri in Fez, Morocco in 859 AD. Her university, University of Al-Qarawiyyin, is now the world's oldest university. At a time when learning in Europe was limited to the monasteries, the education system under Islamic civilization was open and available to all. The European models we see today were inspired by early Islamic templates, which were the first to form the notion of graduation and diplomas. The Prophet Muhammad's commitment to education led to a burst of scientific and philosophical thought in the medieval Islamic world. Some of the Muslim scientists of this period are Averroes and Avicenna. They developed new theories in physics, physiology, chemistry, mathematics, and almost every other branch of science today. Ibn Khaldun is considered the forerunner of several social sciences such as sociology and demographics. Philosophers like Al-Farabi preserved the works of Greek philosophers such as Plato and Aristotle, but also formed their own theories of psychology and politics. Their advances in education were a clear response to the encouragement of the Prophet, seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. Muslims today continue to advance in the Prophet's legacy by entering every field of education. Just here in Albany, you will find many Muslims in different professions, such as doctors, dentists, scientists, researchers, and teachers and professors. It is really sad to see that Taliban and other extremist groups have perverted the true teachings of the Prophet Muhammad to fit their political objectives. They want the world to believe that the Prophet did not want his followers to pursue education and especially mandated oppression and seclusion of women from education. The true teachings and legacy of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is totally the opposite. He made seeking knowledge mandatory, a religious duty, and a right for every man and woman.